Welcome to In the ED Now, a podcast that makes you an excellent emergency department physical therapist and helps you practice at the top of your skill. Today's going to be a little bit different. I'm Dr. Rebecca Griffith, your host, the ED DPT, and it's just going to be me and it's just going to be you. So, what I wanted to do today is really just talk to the class of 2025, the DPTs and the PTAs that are graduating, and just have a love letter to you as you're embarking on your career. Physical therapy is one of the coolest things. And if you follow me for a while, you know how much I love our job. I think physical therapists make hope tangible. I think physical therapists give people their lives back and improve their quality of life. I also think that physical therapy is the intersection of art and science. And I remember when all I wanted to do was become a physical therapist. It's all I wanted. I was planning for that when I was in college. How quickly can I finish college so I can get to PT school? And then when I was in PT school, how can I get a really good grade on this test because I want to be the best PT I can? What clinicals should I go to so that I can be an amazing physical therapist? And then as we continued, right, then the next question is, what kind of physical therapist am I going to be? And so they're all, they go into PT school knowing exactly who they want to be as a physical therapist, what patients they want to see, where they want to work, what they want to do. And they do that. And I think that's amazing. But I also think that limits us somewhat. So when we think about how we talk to people, when your friends and family say, to you, oh, you're a physical therapist, that's great. Maybe they know what a PT is, maybe they don't. But one of the things that I notice is the way we describe ourselves as PTs. I'm an acute care physical therapist. I'm an emergency department physical therapist. I'm an outpatient therapist. I'm a rehab therapist. I'm a pelvic floor therapist. I'm an oncology therapist. I do home health. I'm a home health PT. Um, I'd like us to try and think about who we want to be as physical therapists beyond the buildings we want to work in, beyond the diagnoses that we want to manage. So as we talk about you and your beginning your career, I just want to give you a little love letter to the class of 2025. So you're about to enter the world of physical therapy. And if you don't know what kind of physical therapist you want to be, that's okay. And if you're even in that space where you're studying for the NPTE, but you don't even know if you want to work as a physical therapist, that's also okay. This is still for you. When we look at the career we have, I want to acknowledge that it's different. It's probably different than what you expected when all you wanted to do was get into PT school. We've had a pandemic in the last 5 years that has changed the healthcare landscape. We've had political shifts, economical shifts that have changed the healthcare landscape. And things feel really uncertain. There are other pieces that play into that too, like the use of AI, the use of third-party payer sources, looking at what we have to do with less time and fewer resources, and looking down the barrel of uncertain payment. All of that is really stressful. And I think a lot of people look at the job options that are available and they think, I don't want to do that. I'm already burned out. That clinical burned me out. I saw so many patients. It didn't feel good. I don't feel like I'm providing the kind of care that I want to provide. But I want you to consider, maybe is this shift a gift? This shift in the healthcare landscape. Right now, it probably doesn't feel like it. You're probably worried about getting your first job and making sure it's the dream job and the right fit. And will you be paid enough? Will you have mentorship? Will you be able to see the patients you want to see? All of that is uncertain. But you're stepping into possibility. And one of the things that I want you to focus on as you go out into your new uncertain career is that the job you want as a physical therapist might not even exist yet, which is very cool. You might be the one that creates that. The other piece is now is the time to own the profession and move it in the direction that you want it to go and be the physical therapist that you want to be. Do you want to specialize? Maybe. That's okay. Do you not want to specialize? That's great too. When we ask, do we need specialists in physical therapy? I think the answer is absolutely yes, but we also need people who are specialists at being generalists. And I think there's so much space for that. When we also look at the shifting landscape of healthcare, there will be a shortage of physical therapists, in my opinion. And I want to assert that there already is. When we look at the number of patients that utilize physical therapy, the statistics that I've heard are 7 to 10%. And those are patients who already have an illness or an injury. They already have multiple sclerosis. They already have an ACL tear. So they're seeking physical therapy. Those are the people that have been told to go see a physical therapist, that know they need a physical therapist. But that's only 7 to 10% of those people that are already ill or injured. And the statistics were something like, if every single physical therapist in the United States had all of the patients that needed to be seen, we would each be responsible for about 2,000 patients. Just staggering. I certainly don't have time for that. Talk about productivity requirements. You'd never be in a hole because you'd have to be seeing thousands of patients. But then when we look at the world of opportunity that we haven't even really skimmed the surface of, I'm talking about the health and wellness space. I'm talking about preventative care. I'm talking about chronic disease management. I'm talking about, athletic improvement. I'm talking about systems-based improvement, population health management, and then all the spaces you could go with your physical therapy degree, like governance, leadership, education, community design. Just wrap your head around that. A young physical therapist that I work with in the APTA, she just got a new job as a tenure track professor in a music department, focusing on musician wellness as a physical therapist. How exciting is that? So what I want you to take from that is, while it may seem scary and you're looking for that first job, because I know you have student loans to repay and I know you need a break and I know you just want to be a PT and learn what you can, I want you to consider that who you want to be as a physical therapist and where you can make a difference is not confined to home health, acute care, the outpatient clinic, the rehab department, a subacute rehab facility, a school-based system. It's not confined there. There are no loops, but you have to have the audacity, the creativity, and the innovation to go there and create those opportunities. So I'm challenging you to challenge our norms, this generation before you. These norms are outdated. The way we practice is outdated. I want you to embrace innovation. I want you to embrace the tap of scope mindset to be the physical therapist you want to be, so that together we can transform society. And the best way to do that is go directly to society. I'm asking you not to just fit into the profession, but help shape it. So some examples of that, and PTs who are doing that. I like to think I'm doing that somewhat at pushing emergency department physical therapist practice. Looking at Dr. Rebecca Seagraves, who is pushing maternal care for patients who are pregnant, delivering, post-birth. I'm looking at people who are transforming how we look at remote therapeutic monitoring and population health. People who are going into prison systems and changing the population health in those areas. A friend of mine who works for Frito-Lay, helping manage the health of their drivers. At PTs who are looking at the health of tactical athletes. At PTs who are taking on their communities and transforming the chronic health problems in their community. There is so much possibility. I recently talked to an OT colleague of mine for her capstone project. She was really working on occupational therapy with unhoused patients with mental health disorders and the role that they could play there to help transform society. And I was left with nothing but inspiration. So there's so much opportunity. The next thing I want to talk to you about is your clinical skill, Right now, you might be feeling really great about your clinical skills. Otherwise, you might be feeling like, oh, I really need mentorship. It's not where I want to be. I need experience. All of that is true. You should find a mentor who aligns with your values and your clinical philosophies and will challenge you and get you out of your box a little bit. I want you to know that you can always, always improve your clinical skill. There are mentors for that. There are courses for that. There are residencies and fellowships. I'm going to encourage you to consider all of those possibilities. But I want to remind you that the thing that you might not be able to learn more in a CU class, but something you could certainly lose, is that your compassion is clinical currency. It helps you build your therapeutic alliance. It helps your patient outcomes. It helps you be the one that's responsible for second first steps, for moving your patient towards their goals, for changing lives. Your clinical skill matters, but your compassion is what makes you unforgettable, right? And when I think about the patients that I've worked with, where I feel like I've had the biggest impact, I had to give patient satisfaction surveys in the emergency department as part of one of our pilot programs. And it was scary because patients are often really not satisfied with their experience in the emergency department. If you've ever been to one, you know why. And we would have to go in and say, hey, this is just for me as a physical therapist. This is not about the rest of your experience. And there were times when I felt like I did nothing to help them. Their pain was just as bad as when they had come in. I hadn't made any profound diagnoses. I hadn't made any huge changes in their clinical picture, and I felt kind of useless. And I was nervous to give those people the patient satisfaction survey, where they could circle on a 0 to 5 scale, their satisfaction on different things. And then there was a comment space. And those are the patients where I thought, oh my gosh, I just failed. But those were the ones where the comments were sometimes the things that really changed my life. They said things like, physical therapist made me feel like I was a person. First person to actually touch me, listened to everything I had to say, didn't judge me, gave me hope. One of the therapists that I work with, they wrote in the comments, God bless Mark and all of his progeny because he changed my life today. So when you move forward, even if you're doubting your clinical skill, you haven't gotten that lumbo-pelvic minute, you feel like your exercise progression needs to be more robust. You're worried about your clinical assessments. Just remember that your vulnerability, your humanity, and your presence in people's lives is one of the greatest gifts you have to give. The next piece is advocacy. And I know I talk about this all the time, but it's important. When we talk about practicing at the top of your scope, which is where I want you to drive to, it's where I want your whole career to move, to the very top of your scope. Your top of scope practice looks different than everyone else's, right? Because you have the life experience that you have the school experience that you have the clinical experience that you have your unique hopes, dreams, insights, and perceptions that make you who you are. You have your clinical experiences that you had on your rotations that make you who you are. You might have some advanced certifications like speaking Spanish or ACLS or dry needling or a pelvic floor certification. All of those things go into the top of your scope. The top of your license depends on what state you live in. So your license scope might be different than mine. Your top of license may be different than mine. I can order imaging. I can, order durable medical equipment, all kinds of things. You might not be able to do that where you live. That's the legal standard that you're held to as a physical therapist. So definitely always practice there. And the people that make that decision about your top of license practice, those are legislators. Okay. And then the third piece that we get into is that top of facility. And that's what you're allowed to do where you work. And that's important to understand because when you go into a job employed by someone else to be a physical therapist, many PTs say, well, my practice is my practice. They can't tell me how to practice. That's not necessarily true, right? Like there are conditions in terms of your employment. So make sure when you're accepting those conditions in terms of employment that the values and procedures and policies of your employer align with who you want to be as a physical therapist so you can practice as true to yourself as possible. So the reason that I tie all this into advocacy is if you are practicing somewhere where the policies are outdated and you would like to move your top of facility closer to your top of license, for example, you can't order imaging at your clinic, but you can order imaging in your state. You need to advocate internally for change to maybe move your facility to accepting that to allow you to be as autonomous as you should be. But then your top of scope, truly, if you can dry needle, for example, this is a basic example, but in your state, it's not legally allowed. Advocacy has to happen there at the legislative level to allow you to be able to practice beyond that top of license and at that top of scope. Advocacy has to take place there. And then the last piece of advocacy is you're a physical therapist or a physical therapist assistant. Welcome to the profession. We're so happy to have you. But this is a group project. I know maybe you thought after PT school you were done with that, but you're not. So now we're on to the biggest group project ever, helping healthcare in our profession continue to evolve, change, and grow. And you are on the team. So we need you to not only advocate in places where you work, but in communities where you live and at the professional and national level. So different ways you can do that. Obviously, please be an APTA member. I'm certainly biased in that direction. It is the voice of the profession. It is the policymaking body. It's the legislative voice. It is the place where you can have the most power and the most input. Beyond that, advocating at the legislative level, both locally and federally. And beyond that, advocating and leading change in places where you work. Find mentors that will support you in that important advocacy. And then I think the last thing is, this is my invitation to you now that you're a physical therapist or a physical therapist assistant. Amen. And sometimes there can be a little crash that comes after that. You're like, all of that, and here I am. I want you to think about what's next. Who do you want to be? How do you want to practice? How are you going to change your little piece of the world in your new role? And how are you going to move there? What things do you need to support you with that? This is your invitation to create the career and the life that you want, that you've been looking forward to. It is possible. I know there are probably people in your life who are discouraging you from physical therapy, whether it's because of payment, whether it's because of burnout, whether it's because of, just complacency. I get that. But we are so lucky to have the humanity and the ability to change lives in such an impactful, personal, and profound way that I hope you won't listen to those voices. And when there are barriers, because there truly are, all of those things I just mentioned are real barriers, you can evolve, rise above, and find a way. This is your invitation to transform the profession into what you'd like it to be and where you'd like it to go. This is your next charge. This is the next direction that you need to go. You don't have to be perfect as you get started. You're going to make mistakes. Be gentle with yourself. But please, just be all in. Just be all in with both feet. We are here to welcome you to the profession, to support you, and to watch you grow, and watch you lead us into the future. So, the future of physical therapy, class of 2025, DPTs and PTAs. It doesn't belong to someone else. It belongs to you, not me. I can't wait to see what you do with it. I'm really excited. So congratulations on all your hard work. Good luck with the MPTE. Be truly careful and optimistic as you choose the next directions your career will go. And think top of scope. Think outside of the outdated norms and think about how we'll transform society. And I'm right here behind you. Reach out if I can support you. I can't wait to see how you grow. Congratulations and welcome to the profession. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. We have some upcoming continuing education events that will be coming towards the end of the year. Our first course, Musculoskeletal Management in the Emergency Department, is in August in Denver. Coming up in September, we will have our combo course, Musculoskeletal Management and Dizziness Management, in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in November, we're looking forward to our Top of Scope Summit. We are actively having a call for presenters now for 15-minute presentations on best practice in the emergency department. We look forward to your submission. Finally, we'll be having our Optimizing PT in the ED practice in November as well. That course will be offered virtually. If you are looking for last year's Top of Scope Summit, you can find it online. All of our course offerings are available on the eddpt.com. If you are looking for speaking services for your event, please feel free to reach out as well. info@theeddpt.com. Thank you so much for listening. You've been in the ED now, and you're officially discharged.